So these are harrowing pictures. A man, they tried to castrate him by shooting him in the private parts as described there. Even the commentator's uncle had uncle of one of his workers killed. This is serious stuff. What is happening in Africa?
Well, yes, it is. It shows that religion, all religions preach peace, tolerance and charity. But clearly when religion is used in the fashion which it has, clearly, it always goes very bad and very messy. And what we're seeing is the ugly side on both sides of this issue. I think there needs to be some level of responsibility from the leaders, local leaders, preachers, both the imams and the priests on both sides, to take responsibility for their people and try and quell the violence, because no one's going to benefit from this. There are no winners. And until we can appreciate and understand that there can be no winners, there can only be losers, then we can actually try and find a way to actually live side by side with one another.
Absolutely right. When he's saying that this is the responsibility of the religious leader to take stand, so many Muslim leaders, they are saying that, oh, we are not terrorists. Of course, we are not saying that all the Muslims, they are terrorists. But the problem is, when they are not part of the solution, they are part of the problem. If they are moderate Muslim and they are civilized and they claim that they are not in favor of that terrorism, but why they are not taking stand with the other people, with the other nations against that terrorism? Why they are not coming on the streets and they are condemning that terrorism and that kind of the violence in the Christian community? I mean, we the Christian, we are talking about this violence. Why the other community leaders, they are not taking stand against that sort of the violence in Nigeria, in Pakistan and in this country?
So if we're not a part of the solution, we're part of the problem.
Well, we discussed earlier on about the will of the West to be involved in certain countries of the world. There's a definite lack of desire to be involved in some places. I was in India in October, and I was also in Bombay just before this terrorist attack happened. The terrorist attack in Bombay was terrible. There were between 100 and 200 people killed. It was horrific. It was on every news item, in every nation of the world, on every front page, on every major news outlet, for days and days. 60,000 Christians have been attacked, slaughtered, made homeless, killed, women raped, murdered, and chopped up in the state of Orissa in India. I didn't see anything on the news about it at all. I didn't see anything in the newspapers about it at all. There is a will to put pressure on and make known about terrorism, because behind the scenes there is a desire to implement the ID system, which is leading towards an end world system. But where there is something like Christian persecution, that will be hidden and never mentioned in the news.
Well, we're not going to hide it here. Some of the atrocities that we have seen in northern Nigeria, and because of the time that the show is put out, we could not show you the charred bodies, the wounds. That's what we saw blurred out on those pictures there. But I've seen the footage, and it will make you weep to see what is happening to our brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
In this year, just weeks ago.
Yeah, I get emails, many, every week, many, every week, from all around the world, telling me of Christians being persecuted, killed, martyred for their faith, more than at any other time in history. Just yesterday, or it was maybe the day before, in Libya, 4 Christians were executed. Why? Because they converted from Islam to become Christians. In Garissa, in Kenya, just last week, the church was burnt down. All the Christians were attacked in a very similar situation to what you saw here in Nigeria, in the town of Garissa in Kenya. These things have been happening in Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia. It's been happening on a wide-scale basis, where Christians are just being marginalized, put into minority, then persecuted, and then killed.
And I think, George, I want to mention here that this is a result of that political agenda of America and UK. Whenever there's a conflict between America and Iraq and Afghanistan, the people are taking revenge from the Christian in Pakistan. They are burning over churches, they are persecuting the Christian in the villages, and they believe that those who are Mechanized, they are all Christians, you know, in Pakistan. If I'm wearing this jacket and I'm wearing the tie, they believe that, especially in the villages, they believe that I'm Christian, and they are persecuting the Christian due to that, our connection with the missionaries in UK and in America.
So this is culture wars as well as religious wars. Is that what you're saying? Because
it's both
things.
Yeah.
So, Ayo, you've seen the footage there.
Yes, I have.
You've spoken about both sides having a responsibility. We've heard that this is not just happening in Nigeria, it's happening in Uganda, Kenya, Pakistan, and even here within the UK, we're seeing physical violence against Christians. Do you think there is a spiritual aspect to this that goes over and above simply the wickedness of both sides? As Pastor Michael said, there's been more persecution of Christians in this time than any other time. Is something happening in the spirit, or is that just mere coincidence and happenstance?
Well, I'm not a pastor, so I can't comment on the spirit. But from a human perspective, I would say that what we're seeing and witnessing is not in keeping with what we should aspire to, and it's not very good. It doesn't send the right message. I think we should go back to the basics, back to teaching of tolerance, understanding, and if we go back to that, then we're unlikely to actually move on into these areas of conflict. I think it's highly possible that as we're seeing in Britain here, where you say Christians are being persecuted, or elsewhere in the world where they've been killed, we've got to be able to stand up and say, no, we can't accept that, but also use what the Lord has told us, which is about tolerance. Not in terms of slap one cheek and offer the other cheek, but more so in terms of understanding people's perspective and trying to harmonize and live together as a community, because without that, we're all doomed.
Pastor Mike, we hear a lot about tolerance. I seem to remember in Revelation chapter 3, the problem that Jesus had with the church was that it tolerated Jezebel. Is there a place for tolerating everything, or are there some things that we don't tolerate?
Without doubt, we are dealing with spiritual forces here. This is not a human phenomena. Everything that happens on this planet is a reflection of the spiritual realm. So what is happening is, in the spiritual realm is where we need to do our business, is where we need to pray. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through God for the pulling down of strongholds.
We've run out of time. We've had a great show today. Thanks for being with us. I'm George Hargreaves. This has been the Politics Programme. Thank you to Ayo Johnson, to Pastor Mike Burgess, and Reverend Noble Samuel. Join us again next month on the Politics Programme with me, George Hargreaves. God bless you and thank you.